Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to make an animation just using SketchUp. It's pretty easy to do. There are some tips that I want to give as we go along, and it really is the start if you're using SketchUp but you want to do a better animation. Doing a lot of these steps is the start to making any sort of animation with a plugin as well. So here we go. I have a model appearing here, and basically the way animations work in SketchUp, they are just scenes. And a scene, of course, is just saving a view. So if we really start the beginning, if I said, okay, I'm gonna save somewhere, I'm gonna say this is gonna be a scene, the front of the house. And what you do is you pull up scenes. If you don't have scenes up, go Windows, default tray, pull up scenes, make sure it's checked. But to create a scene, you just hit add a scene. And we can see it adds a scene over here. And if you are unaware, it also adds a little button up in here. And I could rename the scene if I wanted to. But just to show you what a scene does, if I were to sort of move and pan somewhere else, if I hit that scene, it takes me back to that place exactly as we just matched. And notice how when I hit the scene button, it animates its way back. It doesn't just automatically jump back to where I was before, but it slowly sort of pulls me there. And fundamentally, that is the beginning of animations. In SketchUp, it's just a bunch of scenes where it's automatically doing those animations. Now, again, there are several things that you want to think about as you're doing this and tweak and setting changes you want to make and best practices you want to use, which a lot of this video is composed of, but fundamentally it's just adding scenes and adding them together. Now, I'm actually going to start by deleting this scene because I want to make a new scene to start my video. This is because a lot of times when I'm thinking about architecture, I like to give eye-level perspectives because that's how people experience architecture. So I can set that by going to my camera and going to position camera. If I position camera, I get this little guy. And if I place it here, now we can see my eye height down here is 5'6", a typical person's height. This is what the building would look like if I was actually standing there. And then if this eyeball changes, this clicks around, it's like I'm moving my head around to move. So maybe I want to get a nice little perspective there, framed by a tree and the fire pit on the left and right, and say, okay, this is a good scene. This is where I'm going to start my animation. So I'll just start my animation here by clicking this button. All right, and now what you'll do is you'll just sort of pan around till you get to where you want to go to next. So maybe I want to start there, but maybe I'll come up and fly around the house. So it'll be sort of fun thing to do, and I'll just say I'll put side of the house we'll see here. I'll just add another scene, and I'm going to do this quickly. There's always room for edits. I'll show you how to edit the scenes as part of the demonstration. We'll come up here, over here, we'll come around to this side. Maybe we'll start coming down a little bit. Maybe I'll even position my camera down on this side so we do get some eye level shots. I'll add a scene here, and maybe I'll end it right over here. Close enough to 5'6" will be perfectly fine. So I'll add a scene there. And so I've created 5 scenes to start, all right? And so we can see I can click through those, and it's the start of animation. I'm doing this very manually though. But animations is just doing this automatically. So I'm going to go back to scene 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to view right here and go to animation. You see here, and you can see how you can add scenes and delete scenes there as well. But I've already done that step, so I'm just going to go to play. I'm going to start by playing this, and it will take a second to start to think, and it'll start to move around the animation. No clicks needed, and then we can see it's going around all perfectly good like this. I should have done one other thing, but that's okay. I can do that later. I was just realizing I should have thought about my shadows beforehand. Notice how the shadows are on and off. I should have maybe picked a better shadow position before I started. I can obviously edit that in all the scenes if I want to, but that would have been easier to do it beforehand. Um, Now take a couple notes about this animation. One is notice how it pauses every time it reaches another scene. Now that's okay and sometimes useful, but it feels very jerky, like start stop start stop. It's a little rough. Well, there's actually a way of getting rid of that. I'll show you how to do that. So let me stop this animation, It'll be a little smoother and it will be better quality, by the way, when you do final output, which I'll show later. That was just a preview of it. But I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to go to view animation. I'm going to go to settings, and we can see up in here there are a bunch of settings. So the first thing I want to look at is scene delay. So the scene delay was that pause. If I wanted to make the pause longer, which I don't really ever do, I would obviously add it up, but if I can set it to 0, I just click down, set it to 0. Now, if I click off and go to animation and play, once it loads up, we'll see it'll just going from one frame to the next. Now, there's still a slight tiny pause, and again, that's just because this is a preview and it's working through the issues. But if I were to save this, there would be no pause. So step one is I would generally get rid of the pauses if you're going to output from SketchUp directly. Now, the other thing to note as we're sort of walking around here is that um, some of these transitions are nice, but notice how some are fast and some are slow. So like that's a pretty good pace. This feels pretty comfortable. Even this is not too bad. But then this is a really fast transition, and then it slows back down to a comfortable pace. And you're not going to ever give it perfect spacing, but you want to make sure your pacing isn't too slow and it isn't too fast. And if it is, you either have to add or remove scenes to accommodate. So the reason why I'm going to stop this, my fast transition is between scene 3 and scene 4. And the reason for that is it just goes too far. And so if I put a transition, let's say maybe I need something halfway, like right here, I can add a scene and added it right there, and it'll slow down now the transition. Now be careful because I just added it and added it after scene 4 when I really want it to be between scene 3 and 4. But I can come over here to my scenes and I can use my up button to put it right where I want it. Now it's scene 3. We can test it out just by clicking. Scene 6, the speed seems okay. And scene 4, the speed seems okay. Now I'm going to go with that, but don't be afraid of tweaking any of these more or adding more as you need to make a really great animation. All right, and the better you get the path, and there might be multiple edits you need to make to it. So the next thing I want to talk about is sort of the length of an animation, and part of that deals with speed, and part of the speed deals with settings. So if I go back to animation and settings, we can see the scene transition. That is when it's checked, those are the automatic animation it makes, and it's taking 2 seconds to get to between each of these scenes. So I could speed that up, which I probably don't want to do, by going down, or I can make it slower by going up. So let me set it to 3 seconds for now. We'll just take a look to see how that plays. Animation, play. It'll take a second to think through here, but you can see now it's going at a slightly slower pace, not too bad. It's still pretty comfortable. It doesn't. I actually like this pace. It's giving you time to look at the house. Probably a little bit slower would probably be too slow, but let's say this is a pretty good pace. So we'll stop this here. All right, so I know it's taking 3 seconds for every transition, right? Well, I can also count how many transitions I have. I've got one between scene 1 and 2, the second one between 2 and 3, and so on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and actually there's a 6th one because it loops, so it goes from 5 to 1. So there's 6 transitions. Now each transition is 3 seconds long, so I can multiply those two numbers together. In this case, 3 seconds times 6 equals 18 seconds. And you'll notice like 18 seconds for a video without anything moving other than the camera and no music or anything, which is the quickest way of doing an animation, is actually starts to feel like a long time. My recommendation would be, like, ideally, to make it worthwhile, you want to be between 20 and 30 seconds. Once you get over 30 seconds, it starts to just feel really long and boring. A minute is people are tapping their toes. They're like, when will this thing be over? Right? Because it's not, things aren't moving around and things like that. You're just sort of moving around. So my recommendation is usually between 20 and 30 seconds is usually pretty good. 18 seconds, of course, I would say is probably close enough, but the reality is it means I could have a couple more scenes in here if I wanted to add those things in, and I would be okay. But that is a good recommendation for that. The other thing I want to mention is sometimes now I sort of have experience, so I think I'm pretty good. But sometimes you get these animations where you really start to feel a little woozy, sort of all over the place. Let's see if I can maybe just make something happen. Let's say I want to change scene 2 to out here. Sometimes you need to edit scenes. Now this is gonna make the animation worse, but perhaps it would make it better. If you need to update a scene, you just select the scene, you move your view, and then you right click over the top and you say update. Right, and now it's updated. So I'm gonna go back to scene 1 here, just for demonstration purposes. We'll go to animation play. So we sort of zoom out here, and then we sort of zoom in really close. It sort of gets wonky. It's like we're sort of zoomed out and zoomed in and slowed down. So you wanna fix those. You want to make sure things like that don't happen. So I'd go back to scene 2 and I would just zoom back in and edit it. I'm also going to try to show you another error you might get. Probably about there would be good. Let me go to scene 3. Let's say something like this happens. Not like this, but I'm gonna come down here and maybe do this for scene 3 temporarily. Let's see what happens. Go to scene, oh, update. Yeah, but that comes up. Just hit the update button. Okay, scene 1. Okay, so I'm gonna go to view, animations, play. And I'll come around to scene 2, and then it's going to come to my edited scene 3 and watch this. And oh, I'm inside the tree. If you notice really quick, it sort of really looked awkward as I was flying through the tree. Now, I purposely set that up, but that happens a lot. Let's say you were trying to maybe walk into this patio back here. It sometimes takes several moves to get your animation just right. Maybe you have to add scenes so you don't get these conflicts. It'll just go right through a solid object like that, and it becomes weird. So you want to stay away from solid objects and add scenes as needed, or edit scenes as needed. So if I go back to scene 3 and pan out back to where approximately was the first time, I know it's going to sort of work a lot better there. So again, just update the animation that way. So try to not make it too fast or slow. Keep a consistent pace. Try not to go too crazy zooming around. Try not to conflict through things. If any of those things happen, just update your scenes to get a better look at that. Similarly, if you wanted to update your shadows, you can update your shadows, and then you have to update your scenes because they're connected. Shadow settings are connected to scenes. You can obviously do many other things in here besides this base animation. You can put a background image up or extend this, or like use a sky function for the style if you want to sort of give it a sky. Some people will put in the distance a real picture so they sort of see a background. There's many different things you can do right within SketchUp to make the animation even better. And again, it does take time. It's one of these things you never know exactly how it's going to look on the first time, so you got to try something, edit, and edit your scenes until you get it exactly the way you want. Of course, that takes the long period of time. I'm not going to show that in this video. So pretty much once you're ready to go, then you just go to File, Export Animation, pick somewhere to save it. You can go to Options to change the quality. I'll go with HD. That sounds pretty good. You could go higher if you want to, or do some custom settings. 24 rates per second is okay. It's okay for an animation. Again, if you want to do a higher quality one, you can go up. I'm not going to for this video. And then I think importantly though, loop to starting scene. SketchUp did that automatically in here. You want to make sure that's checked because I think you can just keep going in the animation short like this. It really works. So you do want to loop the video is usually my recommendation. And then you just say okay, call it something, and you hit export. Now it is going to take a little while because between each scene there's how many different animation it has to do, and so there's quite a few here. So I'll pause the video and come back when it's done. All right, so here is the animation, just going around explaining all the how. It's a little fast on that part, but that's could be edited if you go. And fun little thing. It doesn't really take too long to do. You can set up quick animations in SketchUp quite quickly. And I could set the animation player to keep looping if I wanted to, but there we go. It was the end of the animation, just like that. And that's how you do it. Now, I just want to make one last note, which is that I set up the scenes here and I animate it through SketchUp, and if that's all you have, that's for sort of fun and interesting. But also, there's lots of plugins to SketchUp. I tend to use a lot of Enscape for rendering and whatnot, and you can make animations through there that would look much higher quality. The thing is, usually, like, they still start with scenes. So if I were to start Enscape, and I'm not going to go through all of the Enscape settings because that'll have to be for another video because there's just a lot of those in itself. But I just want to say how important it is. What you can do is you start here, and there's a great Enscape tool which is synchronize your views, which is this button here in SketchUp. So now we can see I've got the same view going on here, and I can go down to scene, this sort of scene one down here. I'm going to just change my settings really quick. I had it set to 4, so I'm just going to go to Skybox just for simplicity's sake. We can see I've got it here. And what I can do to start the video is just press K for the video editor on my keyboard. And what I want to do is add a keyframe. And so there you go, I've added that. And then what I would do is I'd come up in here and like go to scene 2, and I'd come to Enscape, and we can see that's going to match that same view. And I'm going to add another keyframe, right? So I can change the time here on that, and then I'm going to go to scene 3. And oops, I don't know why I jumped to that animation. Come on. Scene 3, add a keyframe. That's the second one. It just put the third one there. And basically, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to what I called scene 6, add keyframe, add keyframe, and I can adjust its own time of day and all of that in here as well. When I get to scene 5, I will add my keyframe. And so I basically just set up the same animation right here in Enscape. You can see the rendering. This is still just a preview. It'll take even longer to do this rendering. We can see the trees in here, and I got the sky. So it's even the next level, high quality. And there is a ton of stuff you can do with your camera positions in Enscape that you can't do in SketchUp. I can do focus, I can move things around. This black line here, that's the path of the camera, so you can really make sure you're not conflicting with anything. You can change the time duration between each of these. So it really, there's a huge amount of flexibility in the video editor. That's not what this video is to do, but I did just want to sort of show that really quickly, and then we can save this animation and we can see the quality of this, which is going to take a long time. So let me just do that and come back. Okay, so here is the Enscape animation that was generated first from SketchUp, and you can see it looks much more realistic, and as it's going around, much smoother. This took actually much longer to make than just the SketchUp one. The SketchUp one is great if you need it quick, but if you want something more, then yeah, sure, go to a plugin like this. I'd argue that this animation is a little slow, but to finish this video, I'll just let this animation run the rest of the way through. go. Thanks for watching.